For today's demonstration, I will be demonstrating how to import student grades from raw data to the SIAS Learning Management System. But before I will proceed with today's demonstration, I would like to give a warning to the viewers that for the importing of grades or any data, the user should always ask the technical support assigned to the school for assistance before importing any data to the SIAS Learning Management System. I repeat, for the importing of grades or data, always ask for assistance from the technical support before importing data. Now let's proceed to our demonstration for today. At the SIAS Learning Management System, the user must navigate through Files, and select Import Data. At the Import Data, the user must now select Import Grades. Upon selecting Import Grades, the system will present the user interface for the importing of grades. At the Import Grade user interface, do take notice that there are multiple headers, starting from Student ID up until Previous Mark, in which these headers will be required for our Excel file that we will use for the importing of grades. Since we are now aware of the headers needed for the importing, the user must first create an Excel file with the said headers at the Import Grade user interface. Here is the example for the Excel file. Now at our Excel file, we will need to populate or enter the raw data of students. But at the first three headers of the Excel file, must be already at the system or must be existing already at the system, namely the student ID number, period code, and subject code. For example, the user wants a student record at the system, but the student record is not yet available at the system, probably because the student is either an old student, and the record was made before the school implemented the SIAS Learning Management System, and another possibility is maybe the student is a transferee. Or maybe the student record belongs to an alumni student. Considering those possibilities, the user should first create a record of the student with the SIAS Learning Management System. Navigate through Transaction, Admission, and select Create Student Account. Upon selecting Create Student Account, the system will present the user interface for the creation of student account. Now the user must fill all the entries required, starting from the last name, up until curriculum. Please observe as I enter student data for all entries. Upon selecting a course, the system will automatically select a curriculum. After filling up all entries, the user should now select Create Account button. After selecting the Create Account button, the system will present the created account for the user. Now that we have successfully created a student account, we will need to get the student ID that was generated and the curriculum code that we entered a while ago. Here is the ID and here is the code. Now at our Excel file, we will first input the created student ID. Then for the curriculum code, we will use the code to view the subjects within the curriculum that we have entered a while ago. Navigate through Files, Offerings, and select Curriculum. Upon selecting Curriculum, the system will present the user interface of the curriculum. Now the user must select Refresh button to view all available curriculum. After viewing the list of curriculum, the user will search the code for the entered curriculum a while ago. Select the code header from the list of curriculum, then select Search button and enter the curriculum code. After entering the curriculum code, the system will present the curriculum. Now that we have successfully searched for the code, the user must now select the curriculum and select Entry button. Upon selecting Entry button, the system will present the main user interface for the curriculum, with the details of the selected curriculum. Then the user must select Curriculum Details button. Upon selecting the Curriculum Details button, the system will present the subjects offered for the curriculum. Now we will need to assess the grades of the student. If the subject from the raw data match each subjects offered at the curriculum entered at the SIAS Learning Management System. Here is the raw grades data of the entered student. But this data is only an example. Here is the list of subject at the SIAS Learning Management System. But we are going to filter the subject at SIAS Learning Management System to first semester for Year 1. Input 1 at the year text box. Then select First Semester at the Term drop-down option. Upon selecting First Semester, the system will present the subjects for the first semester of the students at Year 1. Now the user must compare each subjects from the curriculum at SIAS, then at the raw data of the student if the subject are matched to each other. For my demonstration, the raw data and the subject do match each other. Since the record match each other, we will now input each code from the SIAS Learning Management System to the Excel file. Please observe as I enter each subject code for the first semester Year 1. Then, since there are 8 subjects offered at Year 1 first semester, we will also need to duplicate the student ID to 8 per subject. With that, the subject code and student ID is done. Now let's proceed to the period record. But first let's assess the raw record of the student. Let's check what period was used by the student. For my demonstration, the period used was school year 2018-2019, and the semester was first semester. For the public schools, the period is located at the upper right corner of the permanent record, or SF10 form. Now that we are aware of the period used, let's check the SIAS Learning Management System, if the period is already existing or not. Navigate through Files, General, then Periods. Upon selecting Periods, the system will present the user interface for periods. Now the user must click Refresh button to view the list of periods available at the periods record. Now let us search for first semester school year 2018-2019, click Search button and search for the said period. Here is the record of the period. Now we will take note of the code, which is 18-1, and input the code at our Excel file. Please observe as I enter the period code for the Excel file. Do take note, since there are 8 subjects selected, we will need input the period code for each subject. With that, our first 3 headers is done. We will now input the other data for each record from the raw data. Please observe as I enter the data for each record. And with that, our Excel file for the importing of grades is done. But before I will be importing the grades, I will first present the student record with a blank grades. Navigate through Reports, Registrar, Grades, and select Individual Term Grades. Upon selecting individual term grades, the system will present the user interface for the individual term grades. Now let's filter the term grades. First, let's enter the student ID, then the period code, and set the level to Senior High. As you can see, the system presented no record since we have not yet imported the grades Excel file or raw data. Now let's import the raw data. Let's return to the opened Import tab earlier. At the Import Grades user interface, the user must now select Get Headers button, and locate then open the Excel file. Upon opening the Excel file, the system will extract the header of the Excel file to the SIAS Learning Management System. Then now the user must match each record to the Import Grades user interface. Please observe as I match each record. After matching each record, the user must select Import button. Then the user must locate and open the Excel file again. After opening the Excel file, the system will notify the user if the importing of data is successful. Since the importing is successful, let's now check the student record, if the record was updated. Navigate through Reports, Registrar, Grades, and select Individual Term Grades. Upon selecting individual term grades, the system will present the user interface for the individual term grades. Now let's filter the term grades. First, let's enter the student ID, then the period code, and set the level to Senior High. As you can see, the student grades was successfully imported. Now let's compare the raw data from the Excel file to the imported record if their record match each other. And upon checking, each record does match each other. With that, our demonstration for today is done. Thanks for listening and have a nice day.